Welcome to All About Billings. We are a show dedicated to discovering the people that make Billings a great place to work and live. We will interview local business people, entrepreneurs, community leaders, artists, entertainers, and just all around cool folks, and we will learn from their successes, their failures, and their connection to Billings. I'm your host, Nancy Brooke, broker and owner at Billings Best Real Estate, and it is my pleasure today to introduce our guest, Kurt Anthony. So Kurt is the owner and morning host of MOJO 92.5, and also there's Twang Radio.
Yeah, I own that one. I don't do anything.
You're not on that one.
I don't do anything on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the interesting part that I find about your radio stations is you are locally owned in a world where most, probably 99% of all radio stations are owned by out-of-state corporations.
That's right. Most are now.
Well,
there's a few local ones, in the marketplace, but yeah.
Well, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
I am
Thank
so
you for
excited
asking.
to, first of all, just listen to your wonderful voice and learn all about you. I know you've been, back when I was listening to radio as a younger person.
I hear that a lot.
You were on the radio then. You were on, were you on Y93?
Well, you're not even, you're in your low 30s, so I could have been at Cook Radio then, but
Cook,
no,
right?
I was at Cook. I was at Y93 on and off for like 28 years, and I just celebrated my 50th year in April 15th of this year in Billings.
Wow.
So I'd worked at Cook Radio, Y93. I'm trying to think. That's probably all of them. But, and then MOJO and Twang. So.
Right. Well, so what brought you to Billings to start? Because I read on your Facebook page that you were from North Dakota originally.
Originally, I was from a little town in North Dakota called Lisbon, North Dakota, which is about 50 miles west, or not west, but south of Fargo.
Okay.
So, and then I went to a school in Minneapolis at Brown College, Brown Institute as it was called then, but then it turned into Brown College, and then it disappeared. And it was for radio and television and that sort of thing. And then my first job was in Dickinson, North Dakota.
Okay.
And then I went to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I started doing mornings in 1973. And then I moved to Cook Radio, which is now, I'm trying to think what station it is now. It would be cable.
Okay.
Yeah, so 97 is the frequency. So that came to work with Dan Miller at Cook Radio in 1974, April.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up here.
So just for the job, then the opportunity to be in a bigger market than Dickinson.
Well, actually, Sioux Falls was the market I came from, which was a bigger market than this at the time.
Okay.
Well, actually, it was a little smaller market, but not much difference. But then, at that time, Sioux Falls was, probably 60,000. Billings was like 68,000.
Okay.
And now Sioux Falls, South Dakota is 250,000. So Sioux Falls has really grown.
Right. Well, so what did you think when you moved to Billings? Was it a lot different than where you had lived before?
Well, when I moved to Billings, the thing that I remember most is that when you fly into Billings, you land on a rock.
That's true.
And I thought, this is the strangest airport I've ever seen, and so that was kind of frightening. But, coming from, a small town in North Dakota and South Dakota, and I went to school in Minneapolis, and so, you're kind of a flatlander. Well, mountains were, so yeah, I found that Billings was a great market. And it wasn't, not that Billings is the friendliest place when you first move here. Billings it takes a little time to, I was here about a year, and then I realized, man, why would I want to live anywhere else? Yeah, and I still love Billings. I mean, it's a beautiful state, and you kind of forget how really pretty, even Billings is. I mean, it's not, Bozeman's beautiful, Missoula's beautiful, Kalispell, Whitefish, and all those, but Billings is, with the rim rocks and everything else, beautiful place.
Well, I was
Still glad I'm here.
I was driving back from the Heights today over the rims, and I was just looking out and going, "Wow, look at how pretty this is."
Yeah, it's a pretty city, and it just is, and I don't think most of the people that live throughout the state think of it that way. I mean,
No,
yeah,
no.
I think they think, oh yeah,
Billings, not very
Billings,
nice. They got those refineries.
Yeah, they got those doggone refineries there, and the landfill. That's just. But there's so much more. I mean, you get up on the rim rocks at sunset. Pretty darn nice.
Yes, it is. Well, what made you decide to get into media, radio? Specifically?
Well, it's kind of interesting and probably pretty boring, really. There's so many people that have great stories about how they established their career. But my brother-in-law, Kurt Johnson, got into radio, went to Brown, and he was about 12, 14 years older than me. And so he got into radio when he was 20, so I was 8 or 9. And I hung around radio stations every time I went and visited him. He was in Iowa, and then he was in Minneapolis at WDGY, which was a major market, and he got there quickly. And I would just hang around the radio station and watch. And I thought, when I was 8 or 9, I finally realized, I said, that's what I want to do. And I never wanted to do anything else. Now, there's a couple of times throughout my career that I thought, I really should get a real job, I do radio, and it's just so much fun that I probably should do something. So I was a stockbroker for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, registered representative. And so I did that for about 6 months and thought, I miss radio, went back into radio. So I have tried to do a few other things, but nothing is like radio to me.
What do you love about radio?
No, it's not like working. It's fun. There's not been very many mornings, maybe back in my partying days where, you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you think, boy, I got to find a different job or quit going out, at night. And see, I've been doing mornings for 51 years. So you get up at 3 in the morning and you prep for the show and you do that. I can't wait.
Really?
Still, I can't wait to get there. And I work with a great guy, Charlie Fox, who I've worked with for 30 years, and so it isn't like work.
Huh. So what is that time like before the show starts? So when your prep is happening, what is that like?
Well, when I prep usually at home, beforehand. So I don't really prep a lot. I just pull different things, articles and
see what's happening.
Yeah, you see what's
locally,
happening,
yeah.
and then you get some services that help you along, but we try not to get horribly political. We don't, we have our beliefs just like everybody else, but nobody really wants to know what mine are, and so I don't get political. We try to help the community if there's there's a fire, if there's people that are in need, we do that. But for the most part, we just want to have fun. If we're having fun, we figure the audience is having fun.
Okay, so we were talking about having fun in radio, and it got me thinking about the name of your station, MOJO. That's a pretty fun sounding name. How did that come about?
Well, I didn't know what to name it. I didn't want to name it the bear, the cat, the mouse, the corn, I didn't want to.
Mountain 22.
I didn't want to name it. And so actually the idea for MOJO came from Bill Coffey at Stockman Bank. We were just visiting one day. I said, I don't know what to name this thing. I said, what do you think we name it? Coffee. And he went, never. Don't name it after me. And I said, well, it wouldn't be after you. It'd be like coffee in the morning, coffee that, And he went, what about MOJO? And so I didn't think that was cool at the time, but the more I thought about it, that's what it was. So,
yeah.
And then Twang, of course, it's country music, and it was, basically old country. So I just thought, to me, country music is twangy, so there came Twang. So.
Well, and in an era, especially because you've been at this for a while, was it 2010 you started? the radio
Yes,
station?
yes,
Okay.
yep,
So
2010.
you started in 2010, a time when a lot of people were exiting
Radio.
owning radio. And so you were contrary. You just decided to start this station when most people would say, not a good idea, Kurt. What inspired
Well,
you to do this?
and a lot of people said not a good idea. Matter of
Yeah,
fact, a lot of
right.
people said, "What do you
What
have
are you
no
thinking?"
do you have no sense?" and radio had really kind of taken a hit
Right.
at that time, because television was going really strong, and networks were doing really well, but now it turned out to be a really good time to buy one and get started in it. And I didn't buy it at first. I leased it. I leased it from Chaparral Media, who had been here before, and they had the station for lease, and it was quite expensive because I'd never done that before. So I thought, I don't care what it costs. I'm just doing it. And
That's bold, though.
well, and then plus I'd never been an owner. I'd always been a morning guy and a sales guy, and did some programming stuff, and that's what I always was. Well, let me tell you something. Owning one and working on one are two different things.
Oh, for sure.
So it was a couple of years where you think, "Ooh, is this thing even going to make it?" And it ended up happening because of all the people that I had with me. They helped me, because some of them had managed and some of them had owned, and so it got a little. It definitely was a little different for me, that's for sure. But it was really fun doing it, and and my premise when I got it was, hey, I'm gonna make radio sound like 1978, because when Clear Channel came into the market, and they're not here anymore, and they're called iHeart, but I mean, they came in and bought all these stations,
Right.
and then they took out the one thing that made radio so great and so loved, was the local element.
Right.
That, hey, no matter where you were, if you were in Los Angeles, your local radio station, was K-Earth or whatever it was, and the local radio people, they made a difference. They got behind everything. They were there. You wanted to know what was going on. You turned on your radio station.
Right.
That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. So I still have live people. Nobody has live people.
So when you were doing it, though, you also had some people you knew from the business who joined you.
Yes. Yes.
So how was that? Because again, you're the owner, and it's totally different dynamic then, right?
Well, I had Dan Miller, who's been here, for 70 years or something. I mean, been doing radio, and I had Charlie Fox, who'd been here. He's been in the market for doing radio for 50 years, or not in this market, but 50 years he's been doing it. Alan Mouse, been doing it for 55 years. I've got John Albright with me. He's been doing it. I've got Rob Walker with me. He's been doing it about 4 years now. I'm trying to think who else I don't want to forget anybody. Rob Griggs. I mean, Rob Griggs went to school here, born and raised in Billings, and Rob, still does afternoons on MOJO and mornings on Twang. So I had an amazing staff. I really did, yeah.
So you were really lucky then that they were able to follow you, or they were willing to follow you.
Oh yeah,
on
absolutely.
this.
And a lot of them were out of radio at the time, because, well, yeah, there's not a real big exit strategy in radio right now, because there really aren't people that are coming into it, so.
So what was the hardest time starting out your
You-
station?
Well, the hardest time was, I had, for one radio station, and I just had MOJO when I started. The hardest thing was I staffed the entire day. I had Jeff Howell, who has passed away since, and Jack Bell, who has passed away since. But I had morning show, which was me and Charlie and Alan, and I had a midday show, which was Jeff Howell, I had Tommy B and Bell. They were on with me. I had live shifts from 5 in the morning till midnight. Well, Clear Channel totally did away with all live shows, basically. Morning shows are live sometimes in Billings and other markets, but I tried to make it all live. Well, I couldn't afford it, so I had to trim some of that back. I still have a lot of live shows, but I still have a midday show live. I still have afternoons live. I still have mornings live, and so.
So it was just really understanding how you needed to run the business, which
I didn't know.
You didn't have experience.
I didn't know, so, I just spent too much money, so it was hard, and I saw everybody else making money, except Kurt. And Kurt wasn't making any, but we fixed that, and had to find a compromise, obviously, but.
So when did you realize that you had turned the corner and that you were going to make it? Because it sounds like it was a little precarious for a couple years.
Well, it was my significant other, Becky Reno, is really the one that did it for me. I mean, she sat down and she said, hey, and she had all the city brews and video libraries, and so she was a great business person. And so she said, hey, you can't out revenue your problems. And I said, what does that mean? She said, your problems is you're spending too much money. And so she just sat down one day and took about 15 minutes and said, here, hands me this sheet. And I said, and she cut a large amount of money out of my budget. And I said, well, I need all that. And she goes, hey, you can take the money or somebody else can. It's up to you. 90 days later, we were making money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's the one that really.
Well, and she's a business whiz too. I mean, she's had tremendous success.
Oh yeah.
With business.
Yeah, she works hard. Yeah.
Oh sure, but she's got a knack for it.
Yeah, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I still don't. But I love doing radio, so it worked.
So then after that, then you just have continued to build. It sounds like things are going great. And you mentioned earlier before the show started that radio has had a resurgence. Tell us about that.
It has had, and but it's been on the downhill decline for years.
Right.
But over the last 7 or 8 years, it's kind of peaking upward. Local radio.
Right.
Now you got to remember that it has to be local. And it has to, the fortunate thing for me is that I have so many people that on the air that everybody knows, and so if you're doing local radio, and I have an open door policy, anybody can come in at any time and talk about what they're doing, if they're having a fundraiser for some young child that has cancer or something. Sure. Hey, you come on, come to the radio station. We'll talk about it. We have an open door policy for everybody, even realtors.
So have you seen it get back to the good old days back in the 70s?
Well, I think if you listen. If you listen to the stations, I think that we try to have just a lot of fun. We talk about the music. We talk about the things that and we've been fortunate that a lot of these musical groups we all interviewed. I mean we partied with them. I mean when they came to town and we had interviews with them. I mean Charlie's got I don't know how many pictures with Eddie Van Halen and ZZ Top. I mean, we partied with ZZ Top when they were here. I mean, it's and I don't want to say that the 80s and the 90s in radio in the 70s were all party, but they were.
Yeah, there's a lot of partying going on.
They were. Yeah, and it was just really fun. And there was a time where radio stations wouldn't let anybody in to even talk about their charities or anything else. You never went on the air with the disc jockey because, you got to play the music, you got to do this, you got to do that, and da-da-da-da-da. And I thought, hey, that's not local radio. I mean, local radio is leave the front door open and let anybody come in and talk. And we still do that. So that's how that's why I think local radio is on a little bit of an uptick. I'm not saying it's going through the roof, but there's a lot of places to find music. So music is still your prime entertainment value on the station, but the personalities and the public service that you do. I mean, radio's still supposed to be serve the public interest.
I know. So we were talking about local radio and how much of a resurgence that's had. Granted, not like this, but
it's in a little bit of an uptick. Yeah.
Well, I guess the thing that strikes me though is you can listen to music in multiple different ways.
Oh boy.
Now you
Yes.
can have it on your phone. You can,
And I do.
a satellite radio with real specific music.
Yes, that's right.
You can
That's
have
right.
any music you want.
Anything.
So it's almost like, how people are going back to vinyl.
Yes, and
It's
they are.
almost like that, like they want to have something that they're missing now. With
Right.
having access to everything, you miss that something special.
Yeah, and I think and I believe, at least I hope, and I hope MOJO and Twang deliver this. I hope that when people listen to the stations, they get the same feeling that we do, is that, hey, we're here to play the music that you like, that brings back a memory, which it's all about, oh, I remember that song and I was doing this. And and I hope that we do that, and we entertain enough, and we talk about local things, and we talk about what you're interested in, what the Billings population is interested in, and we have fun, but we're not bad-mouthing this guy, and we're not.
Sure.
Everything on the radio station is about fun. It just is. And that's what we want.
So what do you think the biggest changes have been to Billings itself? You've been here
The
50
community?
years now, yes.
That's a great question, and I think just the changes that, and there's so many of the things that are still the same. I mean, it's still a pretty safe place to live, even though the crime is a little bit higher than it used to be. I'm sure, but it's a safe place. I think they're just good people. I mean, I think that they got a lot of just basic good in them, and I think the community is, and that's a tough question. I just don't know where the change is. I don't think there's that many, but.
So from your standpoint, it
yeah,
still feels like the old city.
I still think, yeah, it's just kind of, you don't leave your front door open anymore, but unlocked at night, but where you used to, but.
Yeah. Well, and what do you think the future holds for Billings? I mean, where do you see us going?
I think
experienced tremendous growth
Oh,
here.
and I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. I think this is going to be. I think Billings is going to grow tremendously. I think all of Montana is going to grow tremendously, as you've seen in Bozeman and Missoula and everywhere. But I think Billings is going to be a hot spot. Yes.
So what do you think attracts people here these days?
I think the quality of life. I do. I think the quality of life. It's a beautiful state. I mean, it's still got, crystal clear streams that you can fish in. I mean, but yet it's got some nightlife. I mean, it's it's not Las Vegas, but it's got some nightlife, and it's got some exciting things. I mean, it's got great subdivisions. I mean, it's a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to be from.
Yeah, and a great place to run a business, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, it's a great place to have a radio station. Wasn't the first couple of years, but it is now.
Oh, well, that's great, Kurt. Well, I appreciate you joining us today and sharing all of your experiences through the years.
Well, I don't take this wrong, but I hope I wasn't boring. So
You're not boring.
you
made it fun.
When you got all the lights and the cameras, it kind of for a radio guy, it's kind of hard. But
You did amazingly well, Kurt.
thank you.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. And we hope to see you next time on All About Billings.